Hello, Ways and Means. Hope everyone had a lovely snowy weekend back in real winter. This afternoon, we're gonna do, try to finish our budget adjustment memo. There's some very detail-y details that we have to figure out. And that's a technical term. And while we're finishing up the budget adjustment memo, we're going to hear about the budget with Adam Gresham and Craig Bolio, follow up on the governor's budget address last week. And then we're going to talk about the Universal Service Fund. So once again, we are jumping into three totally different places in the course of 3 hours, and I'm glad you're all along for the ride with me. So we have the memo up on our web page. I'm pulling it up right now while talking, which is sort of difficult.
Under committee.
Under committee. And so this is what House Appropriations sent to us to ask us to comment on. And so there's the reversions to the general fund and the ed fund that I think we've sort of talked about, and we can talk more about what we want to say about that or not say about that. Most of the ed fund reversions are about programs being used or not used and money being used or not used, and that's mostly something the ed committee is going to handle. We don't need to worry about that. And because it just goes to the bottom line of the ed fund, it doesn't need to be reallocated the way general fund budget adjustment does. What we do need to figure out is a few pieces of policy that we work on.
Excuse me.
Bless you. That would like to get the committee's input on. And the two big ones are we set up a process with VHCB with some ed fund money and the tech centers that we need to figure out a little bit because the language isn't complete for that. And then the other one, which Ellen is here to talk to us about, and maybe we can start with, is, and folks who were not here last year, please bear with me on this and bear with Ellen. So we have downtown and village center tax credits that are for downtown and village centers. That's why they're called downtown and village center tax credits. Last year, we voted to extend them to a category, to an area called neighborhood development areas, which is sort of the way the member of the administration who always described it to us has very much stuck in my mind, which is that if you think of a fried egg, the yellow is the downtown and village center and the neighborhood development area is the white around it. So now you're all stuck with that mental image forevermore as well. Thank you. What?
Donuts and donuts.
But then the whole is empty and that seems confusing because they're both so full of richness and the protein of life. So maybe the whole day is this ridiculous as the things coming out of my mouth right now. What we did last year, and my memory of the intent, and folks who were here, please help me with this, was that we really were aware that the downtown and village center tax credit is an incredibly successful program for assisting downtown and village centers. And we wanted to make sure that any expansion of the program did not harm the existing very good program. And so we tried to basically have the neighborhood development area tax credits be an entirely separate program, but it sounds like maybe what we did was slightly confusing and needs some straightening. And so when I read what was shared in budget adjustment for the straightening, it looked like perhaps they had lost track of our legislative intent of keeping this program separate. So would love, Ellen, if you could now assist me in my word salad.
Sure.
Thanks.
Abby has a time constraint too.
Oh,
So I don't know if, I think mine is a pretty discrete issue.
okay,
So maybe it won't take too long.
okay.
Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel.
Welcome. I think this is your first time here this year.
Yes,
Good to have you.
nice to be here. So this is I think it's called section 4 on the budget memo if you're looking at this. Yes, historically, the tax credits have been for buildings within downtowns and village centers. In S226 last year, there was an expansion of the program to include neighborhood development areas, and as well as a new type of credit for flood mitigation projects. So then there was also a request to increase the amount of funding for the tax credits. So currently under the statute, it's $3 million annually for tax credits. So yes, your committee had lots of discussions last year about how to protect the effectiveness of the downtown tax credits. And so I think you were looking for a creative way to make sure that that program wasn't disrupted at all by the addition of these new areas. So the language was actually drafted as an appropriation to appropriate money to the tax credit program that would go to the tax credits. It included a specific carve out for neighborhood development areas to be limited, I think, to $2 million of that appropriated money. However, I am not a tax credit administrator. So normally, and you may want to hear from JFO if I don't explain this accurately, but tax credits come in the base funding. And so they're part of the overall, they're not really one-time appropriations because they're often not used in the same period of time that they're allocated. Mm-hmm. There's usually a gap in when they're allocated. So it's part of like the overall base funding as opposed to like a grant, which you can like hand someone money. So drafting it as an appropriation didn't work for the agency that administers this program, which is the Department of Housing and Community Development. So the language in the Budget Adjustment Act restructures this as a temporary base funding mechanism as opposed to a one-time appropriation over 2 years. So it appropriates additional funds for 2 years and then it reverts to the statutory amount, which would be $3 million of tax credits. So do you want me to walk through the language in the Budget Adjustment Act or do you want me to stop there?
Does anyone have any?
Okay.
Great. Yeah. If you could take us through that.
And I haven't been in here before. Do you want me to try to? Okay.
You got it.
Okay, great. So
so what I hear you saying is that basically the way the language is adjusted, it creates a sunset provision of sorts, but doesn't call it a sunset.
Yes. So I think this is sort of a technical fix because, and maybe you should hear from the department, in drafting the Budget Adjustment Act, what I think they heard was that the department was unable to access the tax credits in the form that they were given. So this would allow them to still use them in the form of a tax credit without permanently increasing the base budget. So on page 4 of the Budget Adjustment Memo, it's the last section. It's section 30. So section 54 from last year's budget, from last year's bill, Downtown and Village Center Tax Credit Program. So it now reads, notwithstanding 32 VSA 5930EE, which is the current statutory provision that sets an annual cap of the tax credits at $3 million. So notwithstanding that, up to $5,450,000 shall be used for tax credits in fiscal year 23 on qualified projects. And notwithstanding that same provision, any tax credit capacity for this program not used in 2023 shall carry forward. Of those tax credits awarded in fiscal years 2023 and 2024, up to $2 million may be awarded to qualified projects located in designated neighborhood development areas.
Wait a minute. I probably have the wrong document or wrong page. I'm lost. So I was under committee, I got Budget Adjustment Memo.
Page 4.
All the way at the end.
all the way at the end. See, mine doesn't have any page numbers.
The last page.
All the way at the end, section 30,
Okay,
highlighted in yellow.
okay, I thought there was, okay, I got it now.
Thanks for pausing us.
Sorry.
Catch up. No, I
Okay,
appreciate it. It's better to ask than not.
Okay, I'm there.
So I get the increase from the base, which isn't from, and I'm using base as a non-technical term, from the usual amount of the tax credit to the increase. Does the increase disappear after 24? Or is the increase just available in 23? That's what I'm not sure I'm reading right. So I understand that it can't go
Yes.
to neighborhood development areas after 2 years, but can,
Yes, so that was the intent, although I'm not, I think you are raising a good point because this is, I didn't specifically draft this language. So this is a one-time, it's intended to be a one-time provision, but
it doesn't read to me as a one-time provision.
right, because the language that struck on the third line there, to be used in fiscal years 2023 and 2024, I think that's probably key language too. So I think that's a fair point that it could be more clear.
Okay. So for 2023 and 2024, we are increasing the amount and it can be used up to, for this part, for 2023 and 2024. And then in 2025, we go back to the way the world was in 2021. Okay.
I understand that to be your intent.
Okay.
So I do think,
Can you help us realize that with words? Thank you. Okay. Questions? Yeah, Peter.
I mean, if what we're trying to do is limited to the next biennium, why wouldn't it be that part, be part of session law so that it would go away anyway? Unless that adds another complication that I'm unaware of.
no, and so this provision in the budget adjustment is a session law provision.
Okay.
And so it is intended to be temporary, but I think it could be more clear that it's temporary.
Okay.
Just given the different interpretations of legislative intent, I want to make sure that we're really clear.
Yes.
A way to give it a preamble or some sort of narrative.
Right, maybe just one simple addition could be, so the first, it starts out with notwithstanding 32 VSA 5930 EE until fiscal year 2024, up to,
Sure, whatever.
so that might be, that would just put a bounds on it.
Thank you.
Except up to 2024 would eliminate 2024. You want to say up to fiscal year 2025?
So it depends because this did pass last year. So I think the intent is to continue right now in fiscal year 2023 until that money runs out, and then fiscal 2024 will start. And so yeah, maybe it is 2025, if that is your intent.
Stick to the end of fiscal.
Yes.
The end of fiscal year 2024? Okay.
And then the other thing that's complicated about this is that they can be awarded, but they might not be spent yet.
Obligated.
Yes.
Well, they may not be. So they will be awarded to someone who's going to use them
Yes.
for the project, but whoever purchases them will use them.
Other thoughts? I know it's weird if you haven't had a full endless conversation about the program to be, budget adjustment is very strange in a new biennium, I think. Representative Odie?
The last thing would be, and probably with the fixed up language, it would be okay, but we could put a question, a sentence of intent in the bill. In the intent section, I guess.
Sure. And because this is a session law provision, I think you could probably just add it to this one and say it is the intent of the General Assembly that this money, that this increase be a temporary increase to the tax credits awarded to this program.
FY '23 and '24.
Okay.
Fiscal year.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, okay, and that language works for everyone? Do folks want to straw poll each individual item, or can we straw poll the whole thing at the end? Anyone have a preference? Like, once we're done with the memo and we've all read the full memo?
Hopefully at the end's fine with me unless.
Anyone, okay, great, okay.
When would you like to see this language?
As soon as you can, sorry.
No, it's what everyone says. It's like,
Yeah, that's right.
No, sometimes I say next week, I do. Not today.
We'll work on it now.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Hope to see you again soon.
That's good.
Abby. Can you talk about the VHCB thing with us? Is that Beth?
I think that would be best.
Okay.
I'll see if I can get her in
At 1:30 when Abby has to leave.
Yes, unfortunately, I only
Okay.
have about 13 minutes.
Let's make the most of those 13 minutes.
So for the record, Abby Shepherd, Office of Legislative Counsel. I don't have anything prepared today. I am sort of compiling all of your discussions into a chart, actually, which I think might be easier for everyone to follow along with the language, but I can also put it in memo form if you'd prefer. I've seen a few different options over the years.
Charts are fine, thank you.
I love charts, so I'd love to go that route if that's okay. So I don't, do you want me to sort of, not sure how you wanna, as I don't have it prepared to
Yeah.
show to everyone, just.
I guess I'm gonna run through, and if folks feel like you need more on any of these subjects, speak now or forever.
Forever.
No, not really.
There is no forever.
But it would be nice to just like tidy this project away fairly soon, because the appropriations committee needs to get started on the budget, not the budget adjustment. So, all of these reversions. Does anyone have any comment on them? On that first page,
General fund reversion.
the general fund reversions, yes. I think if I was to have a question, I would have a question about taxes, communication with taxpayers about some of these programs that are available to them. I feel like we already actually had that conversation. Was that last week, 2 weeks ago? So I don't have that conversation to have anymore, but that's the conversation I would have if we hadn't had it already. And so I think something in the memo to the effect of like, we are in communication with tax about ensuring that all of their programs are fully something. Yes.
So this is money that was thought would be spent.
Mhm.
Thought that we would spend this, but we didn't. So it's still left on the books and somebody wants to reappropriate it for something else. Do we know where else it's gonna go?
No, we don't get to decide that part.
Okay, I was afraid of that. Okay, so we.
I mean, if we were a policy committee, we would, but if, unless there's a place of tax policy that we're really interested in sending more money to. But generally, the spending on tax policy happens on the other end, right?
Yeah, I get it.
Though I'm happy to make a suggestion that some of the budget adjustment money for the underused programs goes to the state caps to the community action programs that are funding tax preparing programs. We could put that suggestion in our budget adjustment memo. There's some symmetry there.
That's $10.5 million.
Yeah, not all of it.
Not all of it, okay.
That's a lot of tax preparing. Yeah.
Just pointing it out.
Yes.
Or is it more than that? No, because below is the 45. What's the 45 million? Yeah.
48.
That's the
Oh,
ed
that's
fund.
what education.
Yeah, so this is, 10 million.
Okay, so our part is 10
The
million.
general fund is 10 million, and then we're gonna talk about the ed fund after that.
Okay. Okay, I think I got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Madam Chair, correct me if I'm wrong, we did have a conversation about those, I think we did. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I thought we did have a conversation, can't remember who it was with, about the renter rebates and the homeowners rebates, and it had something to do with incomes being higher than projected. So people were not, does that sound right? And so those, they were no longer to access those.
They said it was a combination of perhaps people not, that was what they thought some of it was that,
Right.
yes.
But those are, the
Yeah.
two of them together are
Mhm.
6.8 million of the 10 million
Mm-hmm.
in the general fund piece. That's just wanted to bring that up.
I have a quick question,
Yeah.
which is, so these amounts revert to the education fund.
Well, the
Okay.
general fund, that first page is the general fund.
Net new general fund balance is available for reappropriation. That's the first page. Oh, sorry, I was already on the second page, but I was.
Okay. So on the first page, does anyone have anything on that general fund memo?
I like what.
I like the
Okay.
suggestions.
I like the
Okay.
suggestion.
Does anyone disagree with that suggestion?
There too.
Not putting a dollar amount on it, or the two?
Naming the desire to see more education and outreach about the programs.
Mhm.
And then directing money
yes.
to text sharing support.
Okay, yes. Okay. Does that work for everyone? Okay, great. On the ed fund. Reversions, the education committee is spending significant time on what it means that those dollars were reverted. And why they might have been under enrolled. That's really a programmatic issue and less of our bailiwick.
They went over this morning.
They did,
They did.
okay,
And with really no comment or objection or anything.
okay, thanks.
Despite this not being our policy area, I guess I do just want to flag some of my own concern for my communities around the special ed funding reversion. I know that we're in this sort of awkward transition to the census block allocation for special ed funding, and before the weights have kicked in, and knowing that North Country School, for example, that serves some of our highest population of special ed students, saw a net loss of $1 million over this last school year, and that led to cutting interventionalists and other things. It's interesting to see such a large reversion in special ed funding when we know that some of our communities saw a significant loss in funding as a result of the census block transition. So, and haven't yet received the tax capacity of the new weights. And so, it seems to me like an opportunity to consider one-time transitional money for those communities that are kind of caught in between the new Act 173 census block model and the new weights. So it sounds like I should have a conversation directly with the ed committee.
I would say that, and I would also say that anything about the 173 transition generally takes longer and more energy than budget adjustment usually is appropriate for. And so I think it makes sense to be having that conversation in the context of the new year. And that money is this money will be on the bottom line for the new year. So it's not as if this is gonna be reappropriated somewhere else with the way the general fund money will be.
So all the tips.
Right, in regards to the ed fund.
Yeah. Let's not do that. Right? Okay. So anything else on the ed fund? Okay. So we'll defer to the program committee on that one, and that we know that the bottom line is available to us. Anyone have anything on ESSER? Scott, did they talk about that at?
If they did, they didn't get to that
Okay.
before lunch.
I checked with Chris Roop, this next one, which is about the state teachers' retirement system. I checked with Chris Roop at JFO about this. We can have him in if people want, but basically that, he said all these actuarial adjustments are in line with all of sort of our intent with the bill that we passed last year, and there are no surprises in here. It's just, sort of expected changes. Any thoughts, questions about that one? Okay. And the next one is section 26, which is, I have questions about, but is not yours, Abby. And we just talked about the Downtown Village Center Tax Credit Program.
Bless you.
Bless you. Okay,
Perfect timing. I think I might have to leave you now.
thank you for being here with us.
Certainly, I can, I will just clean this up a little bit, and then I will share it with you to add or subtract anything, and I'll get Ellen's language as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And the tweak in the vape tax is also in there. Yes.
That's on my list. I will add that as your recommended inclusion in the PAA.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna take a 10-minute break while we wait for Beth to come over from another committee, because people